Hello and welcome. If you want to learn the differences between IEnumerable and IQueryable with real-world examples, then this tutorial is absolutely for you. So let's get started. First things first, let's try to understand the LINQ, because when you learn the differences between IEnumerable and IQueryable, you need to understand the LINQ. LINQ was introduced in C#3. It is a single interface with multiple sources, so LINQ supports multiple sources, including in-memory and out-of-memory sources. So in this case, we have link to objects, link to dataset, link to XML, link to SQL, and etc. And also we have here other data sources which you can implement using IQueryable interface. It can be linked to INI, linked to any services, linked to Amazon, depending from your requirements actually. So we have IEnumerable generic interface here. This IEnumerable generic interface implements IEnumerable. This is inside system collections. It is system collections enumerable, and we have only one single method called getEnumerator. IEnumerable actually helps you to iterate over data in memory, but in this case we have IQueryable here. It also extends IEnumerable, but with few other fields, including element type, expression, and provider. Actually, this provider and expression helps us using expression tree implement third-party service, the out-of-memory data service for us. For example, you can implement, as I said, link to Amazon, and you can query Amazon services using LINQ developed by you. So let's try to understand the differences between IEnumerable and IQueryable. IEnumerable we are using only in memory data. So if you have a collection of data like array in a collection, you are using IEnumerable and you are doing iterating in your memory, actually in your application memory. But when you have out of memory data like XML, like SQL, JSON, and etc., you are using IQueryable to do a iteration to get the exact data from the out of memory data source. Querying as IEnumerable will lead to retrieving all the data to the memory. So you will do the filtering, sorting, and etc. type of operations actually in your memory, in your application memory. But when you are providing IQueryable with where, with sorting, ordering, and etc., actually this query will be implemented in outside of memory, actually in the real data source itself. So let's see, in this case we have IEnumerable use case. As a user, I am providing some query to the database. This is our application. This is application allocated memory. This request will go to the database. From the database we are getting all the required data, but we are applying filtering, sorting, and other type of conditions only in our application memory, because we retrieved information as an enumerable data from the data source, and unfortunately all the things related to filtering, sorting will be done in our application memory. And the last thing, we are retrieving data to the user. This is IQueryable use case. In this case, we have the same flow. We are providing data to the database. We are sending the request to the database. But if we are using IQueryable, in this case, the sorting, filtering, all the stuff related to the query itself will be done in a database. So you will retrieve already filtered, sorted, and condition applied data from the database. Then nothing to do with this data. You can do projection and send the data to the user. The third difference here is IEnumerable only can do forward or only reading in memory. It means when you read, you cannot do forward reading, backwards reading. You should do only the forward reading mechanism. But with IQueryable, you can do forward, backward reading. If you want to implement third-party sources for your LINQ, you should use IQueryable rather than IEnumerable, because only using IQueryable you can encapsulate your logic working with your out-of-memory data source and implement it using IQueryable. Now it is time to see all the things we mentioned in our real-world example. So I have prepared one application here. We have a simple DB context type of application. We have localhost storage database, we have cart information and also customer information. For one customer we may have multiple carts. One cart depends only from one customer, and in my case I have only one DB context there, and as you're seeing here, I have implemented the logging directly to the console using option builder log2. And now it is time from the database context to retrieve the data. So for retrieving data, I can query DB context customers, and if you apply it to list or to array, actually you are retrieving all the data in memory. You can provide it as enumerable data and it will return IEnumerable, but making it to list IEnumerable, for now it doesn't matter for us. Let's get information as list information. Actually this is also the one type of IEnumerable implementation. So I am retrieving all the customer information here, and I can apply any logic, like I want to filter where my customer ID is greater than 2. That's all. War filtered data. In this case, I provided request to the customer. This will get all the data from the database, and we will apply this where only in our application memory, unfortunately. So let's see, I'm going to run the application, and in console we will see all the executed SQL queries. It is building. So in this case, you should avoid this type of querying, because if you have huge information in your database, it will lead retrieving all the information to the application memory and then apply the logic over it. So we have retrieved all the information from the database, and you cannot see where filter here because we retrieved all the information to our application memory, and in memory we are doing filtering stuff. But if you want to do the filter directly in your database, you can easily do it using applying the LINQ extension methods before mapping, projecting it to the memory. So actually it will lead us to the filtering in database side and get the filtered information. So I'm just going to run this query again, and you will see that in this case we will have the exact query with where in SQL. So the IQueryable is going to build a LINQ from the LINQ query, a SQL, original SQL query. So let's see. Let's try to run it again. Now in my case, let's see, I have where condition here. So you see, depending from the where usage, it can be executed in database side or in your memory. So the main differences here is using IQueryable, you apply all the LINQ to your data and you are building a one unique query to your database, as we explained before. Let's see it again. In our case, we are building a unique query to filter, sort data directly in database when we are using IQueryable interface. Actually, in my case, in Visual Studio, we have the customer as queryable data, and it applies where to IQueryable. From here you see that this is IQueryable. So that's all about IQueryable and IEnumerable. So see you in the next lesson.